So in this next video, we're going to be going over the basics of different components that you can add to essentially to the screen of an app. So we're going to be primarily focusing on SwiftUI for the majority of the, I guess, this tutorial series. So what we'll do is we'll actually create a new project, not a playground, but a project. To create a new project, we're going to do a single view app. It's the most basic type of application. And I'm just going to call this pretty much anything. The big thing is make sure that you're using Swift, not Objective-C, and that your user interface is made with SwiftUI, not Storyboard. All these other things, I tend to just keep them on in case I want them later. They're a lot harder to add on, and they don't take much room when you keep them on from the get-go. And add it to my desktop. And I guess the first thing we could do is we can look at the screen and just kind of get a feel for everything. So whenever you create a new application in SwiftUI, you kind of have three pieces here. What you have is right here the importing of the different libraries that you'll be using. Then you have the screen that you're creating, and this is essentially just a way to, this area down here sets up a preview for you to monitor over here. So for purposes of this code, we can essentially just ignore everything on the bottom here. We'll focus on the top here. So everything starting from here and ending here. If you don't have this window open from the get-go, you might have something that looks a little more like that. So you can open that up by clicking over here and clicking Canvas. So this canvas is how we're able to preview what we're working on in real time. And I will say that the toll that it takes on your computer is reasonable when you have small applications, but it does get pretty large pretty quick. And sometimes your computer has a hard time handling it. So I definitely recommend you use iOS simulators or external devices, ideally external devices, because there are some glitches in these. So first thing first is let's just talk about what we're looking at here. This, as you can tell, is an iPhone preview, and you can see this already has a Hello World application. So most tutorials you'll find, before SwiftUI would teach you how to make a Hello World application. Here we already have it made. So let's just compare what we have on our simulator. Compare it over here, or I should say our canvas, how it compares to the code on the left here. So you can see that essentially we already have a text. Well, we call this, in the old framework it was called a label. So now in here it's just called a text. And this right here is what is being used to create this view here. So var body is looking for a single view, okay? And it's looking really for any type of view. So a text is a type of view, an image would be a type of view. But the big thing is that I can't feed it two views. So I can't feed it two texts because it doesn't know which one of these to display. So you might be thinking, how then do I add two text fields to one, or two labels, or to text views, text fields? How do I add two of anything to an application? And the way that you actually get through this is you can actually start stacking things on top of each other using stacks. Or if you're familiar with UIKit, you had stack views, and there were horizontal and vertical stacks. And they made it nice and easy for us here by essentially creating what they call H stacks and V stacks. And so H stands for horizontal. So horizontal stacks allow you to put things side by side in this dimension. V stacks are vertical, and Z stacks actually allow you to add depth. So you can put things on top of each other. And I think the best way we can go about doing this right now is to let's start looking at the H stack. So I'm going to make this a little easier for us to look at, and I'm going to call this text1. I'm going to write that as the text inside of this, and we'll see it update on the preview here on the right. If I hit play, potentially, or resume, we'll see it update in real time. So what I can do if I want to display more than one thing, if I try to add text2, it's going to give me an error here. It's going to say failed to build, and I'll get some errors here on the left-hand side. And what it's trying to say is, that it's looking for one view and I fed it two. But instead, what I can actually do is I can grab one of them. I can command click, say embed in HStack, and it's just that automatically adds this piece of code right there. And I can put both of them inside of the HStack. So now instead of this body being given two text, it's actually given one horizontal stack, and that horizontal stack is technically the return, and within it you have two different views. So HStack is true to its name. We have a horizontal stack of two items. They're put side by side. In contrast, I could actually put a VStack, and a VStack will toss them on top of each other vertically. Now, I can actually put also a Z-stack, and if I put a Z-stack, you'll actually see an overlap of the two of them. I can zoom in to make that a little easier for you to see, but you can see that we quite literally have text 1 written on top of text 2. So let's stick with VStack for now. If you're familiar with Photoshop or any sort of photo editor, you'll be familiar with the Z dimension as the going into and out of the screen. So let's actually stick with HStack for now. Here in this tutorial so far, we've created two different texts, and right now they're right next to each other. So if I want to actually spread them out, there's another type of view called a spacer. In spacer, the way it works is essentially it pushes everything out to the side so that spacer is as big as possible while still allowing this text and both of these texts to be on the screen. So if I, for instance, wanted to put a third text view, we'd see that spacer, it goes text 1 and spacer, and then text 2, text 3. So sure enough, it did push text 2 and 3 all the way to the right. Now, if I put another spacer, we'll find that it actually has a way of essentially they try to equalize out. So if I continue doing this, I can put another one, and they continue trying to make everything as even as possible. So the ability to create user interfaces is definitely a lot smoother in SwiftUI compared to UIKit. Now, another thing I can do is I can actually put images instead. So in this case, I'm going to use, we'll get into what kind of image I'm using here. This is called an SF symbol image. Something that was recently introduced, but what I'm going to show you is an example of how I can create an image, and I can use that as a view. So now I have a text 1, text 2, image, and text 4. But the same principle applies. What you have here essentially is 3 spacers that are equally spacing things apart from each other. And I think that might be enough for this video. In the next video, we'll continue on with more advanced components of UI building. So you'll be able to continue on from this project here. Alright, thanks guys.